Welcome back to part 2 of lesson 9. We'll continue with fraction multiplications and this word problem. Sarah is making pasta. Each serving requires 1.5 cups of sauce. If she wants to make 3.5 servings of pasta, how much sauce will she need? Remember, with word problems, it's sometimes helpful to manipulate the structure of the sentencing. Consider this reformatted sentence structure. Sarah is making pasta, period. Each serving requires 1.5 cup of sauce, period. If she wants to make 3.5 servings of pasta, how much sauce will she need? And even better yet, if you have children who have visual differential concerns, then you may want to put spacing in between. Now, notice that when I did that on the slide, it made the font smaller. So sometimes you need to then manipulate how much space in between, right? So I can go back and instead of having that be the full font size, I can still give it some more spacing. But you think about that, what makes sense for the group of children. It may also be that you have it written up on the whiteboard in this format, but the paper, the worksheet that you're giving to your students may have it separated. Okay, so the questions here are: what is the number sentence that would solve this problem? What is the meaning of this number sentence? And how would we draw a diagram that would match this meaning? So hit pause and see if you know the answer. Okay, so the number sentence with units is going to be 3.5 times 1.5 cups. Here's another teachable moment, putting your teacher hat on. I probably would go in here and I make sure that there's a differential between my full numbers and my fractional numbers. Okay, so just real quick, and these are the things that you'll learn, and you can do it on the fly with your children if you feel like they have the patience and the attention span, or you rehearse the night before you're teaching a lesson and you catch these things in advance. Okay, so number sentence with unit, 3.5 times 1.5 cups equals how many cups? That's the number sentence. The number sentence without units is 3.5 times 1.5. No cups. How will we answer this? Will this answer to the problem be more or less than 1.5 cups? And you've all gotten really good at this, so be thinking about that. Now let's explain it with all at once model and then also using the place model. Okay. All right, so again, you can see the word problem at the top, and this first one is illustrating the all at once meaning. This is in the back of your course workbook as well, and what I've tried to do is highlight the steps with different colors. So 3.5 equals 7 halves, 7 over 2. So find 7 copies of a half. 7 copies of half of 1.5. Okay, stick with it. Okay, so your first 1, 2, 3. 1 basic measuring unit and a half. Okay, if we put those 3 together, 1, 2, 3. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and again, it's different on the PowerPoint, so be patient with me. Okay, you get the gist. Now I'm looking for half of that. Half of 1.5. Half of 1.5. Right? Remembering that 2 of these logs are 1 BMU. So 1.5 is 3. And now I'm looking for half. If we trace that dotted line down, Okay, you can see now 1.5. Now, we know from our experience, right, fraction strips, writing it down, diagramming it, that it's easier to put it into smaller chunks. So 1, 2, 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Right? Now, moving over to this next image, we now need 7 copies of this. And this will be easier to find our answer because all the pieces will be the same size. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you go this way with the dots, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and total you have 7 copies. 7 times 3 is 21. Our adult brains do that, right? But we're imaging it out. So this is the all at once model. So now we have 21 pieces of a certain size. What size is this? Let's cut our BMU into this same size piece to find out. So the final answer here is going to be 21 groups of 1/4, or 21 over 4. Okay, if you need to hit pause and walk through that again, or you want to rewind, you certainly can. That's the benefit of a video. Right, now we're going to do by place meaning. So find 3 copies of 1.5 and find half of a copy of 1.5. So again, the diagrams stay pretty much the same. 1 BMU, 1, 2, and a half. And we put those logs together, right? And we have 1, 2, 3, or 1.5. Okay, now we're bringing that down. Cut it in half, and we have that same amount. Okay, this is the 3 copy part. Sorry, skip that. Okay, so 1.5, we created a 1.5 model. 1, 2, 3. Now, if we cut in half, we know we have 1.5 logs. And moving over to the second image, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little, and one more. So the answer is 5 BMUs and something else. What size is this small piece? So then we have to cut our BMU into this same size piece that you found. Okay, so that means coming back here and cutting these into halves, right? Okay, so it may be helpful to draw this step by step. Okay, so the final answer here is 5 groups of 1 and 1 group of 1/4. That's the by place. Okay, so again, you're welcome to hit pause. Sometimes it's helpful not just to see it and walk through it, but then to actually put your pencil or pen to paper and do it yourself. Okay, so the application here at the conclusion of lesson 9 is adding and subtracting, unlike fractions, can be challenging for elementary school students because there's a step that needs to be done prior to the operation. Okay, you can click on this site and it provides you a step-by-step breakdown of how to add and subtract unlike fractions. Let's take a look together. Okay, this is the Generations Genius site, and it does have some free information. There's also a charge for other things, but the read about adding and subtracting fractions is again pretty food heavy, but it does give you different information. Here's a cookie example, and it walks you through. Okay, so it's walking you through step by step. This would be good practice. An algorithm for finding a common denominator using oranges and that you're making juice. The guinea pig weight, roller blading, and long jumping. Okay, so think about these as reinforcements, even if you want to snag the images. Okay, that can be helpful too. We want to make sure that we're introducing you to a variety of resources as well. Okay, we're moving on to chapter 10, and this word problem states Joe likes to run small distances for exercise. Usually she runs 5/5 of a mile every day. On the day after Thanksgiving, she was tired and she only ran 1/4 of the normal distance she usually runs. How far did she run after Thanksgiving? This may sound familiar because we've done a distance word problem in the past. Okay. What is the number sentence that would solve the problem? What is the meaning of that number sentence? And how would we draw a diagram that would match this meaning and solve the problem? Okay. We know that to figure this out, the length in terms of 1 mile, it's going to be difficult because 7 measuring units is not easily divided by 4. So to figure this out in terms of 1 mile, we could represent 5/5 with an equivalent fraction with more measuring units that could be divided into 4 equal parts. Okay, let's take a look. Right. So one measuring unit. Right. Okay. Linear model diagram we could use as 1/4 times 7/5. 1/4 times 7/5. If we have one basic measuring unit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5 columns, 4 rows. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Looking at our denominators. Okay. So we're finding 1/4 of 7/5. Okay, so now we have that common denominator. 1/4 of 7/5. We're having to divide it and expand it. Okay, so now we've added 2 more columns of 4 to make 7/5. 1/4 of 7/5. If we're now saying this is 1/20th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, counting left to right, 1/20th. We're looking for 7/20ths of a mile. Right? Again, sometimes it's very helpful rather than just walking and talking through images that are appearing for you, is to do it yourself. Sometimes even covering the page, cover up the page. Just show that basic unit and then show the next step, right? Make this as large as you possibly can when you're illustrating this for children, and then expand to the final step, right? Okay, let's practice. 2/3 times 8 1/2. This means to find 2/3 of 8 1/2, or 2 1/2 times 17/2, 17 halves. This means to find 2/3 of 17 halves. Two-thirds times 8 1/2, or 2/3 times 17 halves. Look at your measuring unit. 17. How do we find 8 1/2? Walk and talk through this. Hit pause on the video. Walk and talk through this practice problem. When you're ready, hit go on the video. Okay, one more practice. 2/5 times 3/4. This means to find 2/5 of 3/4. 2/5 of 3/4. Right? So we're going to find